Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. In his novel 1984, George Orwell wrote, "Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right." Let's go back in time and look at what history looked like before it was rewritten by modern politicians. In France during the 14th century, women dressed very nicely. But not so much anymore. This is the current French Prime Minister. She says she's fighting inflation and preventing bad weather. She's not doing too well on the inflation front, with France experiencing a hockey stick and the highest inflation in 40 years. And her record with preventing bad weather isn't working out so well either. She says France is going through its most severe drought in history. I was under the impression that France had a very long history, but the Prime Minister seems to have a different opinion. In 1921, millions of people in Europe, Russia, and Asia faced death from a record heat wave and drought. In England, Ireland, France, and Spain, there was so little rain from January till August that an unprecedented drought arose. Wells went dry, rivers became low and stagnant, and ship canals could hardly be operated. The water supply of Paris was threatened, and at Bordeaux the vineyards were parched almost beyond recovery. Lake Morat in Switzerland dried up completely, burying the foundations of lake dwellers' homes built during the Stone Age. And this is what Lake Morat looks like today. The water is full up to its banks. And if you look past the lake, you can see some very healthy-looking vineyards. So according to the Prime Minister, the year 1921 must have been prior to the beginning of history. Now let's go back a little bit further to the year 627. In 627, the heat was so great in France and Germany, says the London Standard, that all springs dried up. Water became so scarce that many people died of thirst. In 879, work in the fields had to be given up. Agricultural laborers persisting in their work were struck down in a few minutes, so powerful was the sun. In 993, the sun's rays were so fierce that vegetation burned up as under the action of fire. In the year 1000, rivers ran dry under the protracted heat. The fish were left dry in heaps and putrefied in a few hours. Man and animals venturing in the sun in the summer of 1022 fell down dying. In 1132, not only did the rivers dry up, but the ground cracked and became baked to the hardness of stone. The Rhine in Alsace nearly dried up. In 1303 and 1304, the Rhine, Loire, and Seine ran dry. During the 14th century, the river Seine dried up, but today it's looking like it's got lots of water. This information was known in the year 1884. It was also known in the year 1852, 170 years ago. It was reported in the year 1890. It was also reported in the year 1901. In 1821, a plague of mice came with intolerable heat. More than 200,000 persons died from heat in France. And it was reported in the year 1906 with some additional information. France also experienced two periods of great heat in 1705 and 1718. In the former year, it was described as being equal to that of a glass furnace. Meat could be prepared for the table merely by exposing it to the rays of the sun, and between noon and 4 in the afternoon, it was certain death to venture out of doors. This article also had a very interesting commentary. Whenever an unusually hot season is upon us, sweltering humanity talks about the changes in climate and shakes its head in a foreboding fashion. But let no one feel that he has seen the worst. There have been many superlatively hot waves in different parts of the globe and in different centuries. It seems that the Prime Minister believes that France's history is less than 100 years, and she's suffering the same superstitions about imaginary climate change which have always plagued mankind. The global temperature anomaly today is 0.1 degrees Celsius above the 1979 to 2000 average. And according to the French Prime Minister, this warm spot over Europe is caused by the burning of fossil fuels. I wonder if she would feel differently if she was a penguin in Antarctica, where temperatures in some places are 20 degrees Celsius below the normal winter cold. Penguins don't get the luxury of heat and air conditioning powered by fossil fuels. In the year 1540, Europe experienced a year-long heat wave and drought. There was almost no rain for 11 months, and temperatures were considerably warmer than the 2003 heat wave. The temperature was 5 to 7 degrees Celsius above the normal values of the 20th century. As early as May 1540, water was running out, wells and springs dried up, mills stood still, people starved, cattle were slaughtered. And the 1540 heat wave and drought wasn't just in Europe, it also occurred in North America. The Great Drought of 1540 made the Indian tribes of the Mississippi Valley call on De Soto the explorer to intercede with his god that they might not perish from starvation. Carbon dioxide levels are very low in the year 1540, and whatever drives these heat waves has nothing to do with the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This nonstop disinformation from governments and the press is part of a very large effort to demonize low-cost, reliable energy. Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, "We know they're lying. They know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying, yet they continue to lie." Toto's been pulling back the curtain on these fraudsters in the press, academia, and government for the past 14 years. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, Caesar, Toki, and Upala on the web at realclimatescience.com.